Thank you, everybody, for coming to the Aaron Torres Podcast YouTube page. If you could do me a quick favor, see that little subscribe button at the bottom of your screen? Go ahead, click that subscribe button. Really does help our channel grow, our audience grow, and I really do appreciate it more than you know. So click that subscribe button. Appreciate your support. Now, here's the video that you came here for. Tell us a little bit about the setup that you guys have. You have an NBA background. You're now in college, obviously, but even just looking at your website, director of analytics, director of nutrition, it feels as though that you have, you're kind of bringing that pro mindset, that pro, whatever you want to call it, pyramid or whatever of how to run an organization. Tell us a little bit about it. You don't have to give away too many trade secrets here, but, and then also how that's resonating with young people when you're on the road recruiting.
Yeah, I mean, when I took this job, I made the comment that I wanted to make this the best place in college basketball to prepare young men for the NBA, right? And so in my thought process, the byproduct of that is going to be winning a lot of college basketball games. Like if we can get the right guys in here that are serious about their craft, want to get to the next level, are good enough to get to the next level, we feel like that's going to help us win ball games here, right? And so a big part of that is how we set up our organization or our program. And I've taken a lifetime worth of knowledge that I learned in the NBA. So let me back up because
Sure.
I was having these same conversations with NBA GMs, like, hey, this is how I'm going to come run your organization, right? And so this is stuff I've been thinking about, on a very serious level for I'd say the last 3 or 4 summers. So this has been a process and a blueprint that's been crystallized over the last 3 or 4 years in like a real type, hey, I might get this job level, not just something hypothetical, right? And so I put a lot of time and thought into what that may look like. And so when I took this job, that's what I know. And so that's what I wanted to bring here. And to your point, it has resonated, I think, with recruits, with recruits advisors. They see what we're doing here. It is an NBA program, for the lack of a better term, in terms of how it's organized. I was lucky as a young assistant in the NBA. I worked for some really, really good head coaches that, not just head coaches, but organizations that empowered me to have a huge role in what we were doing, right? And I've kind of done that on all levels with my 5 assistant coaches, with our player development program. You mentioned the analytics. We've got, 5 of our people in what I'm calling our player development team are all people that have NBA experience, whether that's strength and conditioning coach, whether that's director of mental strength, whether that's nutritionist, whether that's analytics, whether that's director of player development. And so like we can kind of talk the same language, right? And it's actually made it really seamless. And I think as recruits are seeing that, right, they want to jump into that level of development with that level of specificity and robustness and so forth. And so that's been something that I think a lot of parents have really enjoyed. And I think the players see it as a way like, hey, man, these guys can really help me get better.
Yeah, you guys have had a great level of recruiting success. The guys that you have committed. I mean, I saw this week Yegor Demon, kid from overseas, is the highest rated, I believe, recruit to basically sign with BYU in this online recruiting era. Every kid's a little different. We get that, but do you think that the structure, the ability to kind of see that pathway of, hey, I can come here, whether it's for a year, 2 years, whatever it may be, I can come here and these guys know that pathway to get me to, and listen, we all love college basketball. I love college basketball, but I understand if you're a young man, you want the opportunity to play at the highest level. I mean, is that something that you think has allowed you guys to kind of make waves with some of these kids? Is that you do have kind of that linear pathway and you know what that pathway looks like?
Yeah, I think that last point specifically, like, again, it's not hypothetical. I was lucky in the pro side because I worked with a lot of really, really good players, Hall of Fame level guys. And then, I've also worked with guys who were on 2-way contracts that we helped develop to get, big time contracts in the NBA, right? So the story is wide ranging and the proof of concept is wide ranging. And I think that the genuine nature of that, I think people see it. Again, it's not hypothetical. And I think that resonates not just with players, but with players, inner circles, whether that's their families, their advisors, and so forth. there's some tangible nature to what we're talking about.
One thing I've been told, and every time that you guys have any degree of success, I get asked this question a lot, is about the BYU honor code. And I've said this in interviews in Provo and everything, is it's never intended to be disrespectful in any way, shape, or form to anyone's religion or thought process or whatever. But, I can only say from my own experience, I think, honoring the BYU honor code might have been tough for me as an 18-year-old if I was good enough to play, and I certainly wasn't. But I've been told that you guys use the honor code actually as a recruiting advantage, more so than seeing it as any sort of negative.
Yeah, I mean, I think what it's done is it's streamlined our pool of prospects that we look at. Not every guy is going to be a fit, and that's okay. I think it's that way in the NBA, right? Like I've been in a million draft meetings where intel comes in, guy gets, and by the way, really good player. Intel comes in, move on to the next guy. That blew my mind as a young guy in the NBA. I'm like, it's like unbelievable when they just next guy, right? And so, I don't think it's dissimilar to like how pro organizations operate. Obviously, it's a part of our university that's important, not only to the school but to me as well. And so, where it's helped us, I think, is it allows guys to know like what kind of locker room they're walking into. They feel like they can trust what guys are doing, in terms of how serious that they are about their craft. And, it takes away a lot of the distractions and so forth. And so honestly, man, it really hasn't been much of an issue for us at all.
Disappointing to know that even being 5'11" with like a 22-inch vertical leap, that I would have been off the board right away. But, not for everybody. Really quick, another question about recruiting, and again, you're a busy man, you're running your organization. There's this perception, and I don't like seeing stuff like this, but this is the nature of it, is that, well, BYU's having success like they've never had before, and it must be NIL related. And by the way, Coach, I know you're sort of new to college basketball. I've been covering this for 15 years. The second anyone has any level of success, everybody's just pointing fingers and trying to figure out why. What would you say to a fan of another team or a media member or whatever that assumes that you guys are only having recruiting success because of NIL, with respect, of course, to all the boosters that, of course, are supporting your program?
Yeah, I mean, it's to me, it's a three things that happen at simultaneously, in my opinion, that's allowed us to kind of just even get in the door with a lot of players. Number one, the Big 12, right?
Mm-hmm.
That was a huge draw for me. You're coming in, it's the best conference in college basketball. You're playing against the best college players every night. You're coaching against the best coaches. That was a major draw for me. So, and I think that's the same for the players. That's number one. Okay, I don't think we can overlook that. Number two is my background. I think that the NBA model that we kind of already addressed, that's something that I think separates us from a lot of schools in the country. Again, it's not hypothetical. There's a proof of concept. I think that's real, and I think people are drawn to that. And then the third thing is, the NIL piece is what we've, and when I say we, our collective has been able to do is they've just been able to help us be competitive with the other schools in the country.
Sure.
So there isn't a deficit from other schools in the country to BYU. We're on the same playing field, and I give our guys credit for that. That's basically what has happened. It's been like a three-headed monster right now. If you forecast it, hopefully you go to the proof of concept. Hopefully we can get some of these kids drafted as lottery picks and higher. Okay, then there's another feather in our cap. We haven't played a game. We haven't won a basketball game. So you talk about success, like there really hasn't been any success because we haven't won a game yet, right? And so once we prove that we can do that, then I think we'll hopefully that gives us even more momentum and so forth. But to me, it's been those three things, right? I think we're a little bit more on a level playing field, with a lot of these other schools in the country, and then those other things I hit as well.
Yeah, there's no doubt. I mean, this is the world that we live in. Everybody, listen, everybody competing at the highest level has resources. It bothers me probably more than it bothers you that anytime anybody has success, people point certain fingers.